By the time the bullet was found, the city already belonged to him. Blood soaked through the black suit, pooling onto the hospital floor in slow, deliberate drops, like the man bleeding had all the time in the world. Guns were still smoking somewhere across town. Sirens wailed too late to matter. And yet, when the doors to the emergency room burst open, everyone froze. Not because of the wound, but because of the man. Alpha pheromones, raw, violent, unrestrained, flooded the air like a warning shot. Doctors stiffened. Nurses swallowed hard. Betas instinctively stepped back. Somewhere, an Omega whimpered and fled the corridor. All except one. Eli Park didn't look up from the chart in his hands. He should have. Every instinct in his body screamed that the man on the gurney was danger incarnate. Power coiled tight beneath blood-soaked fabric, eyes sharp even through pain, presence heavy enough to bend the room around him. But Eli had learned long ago that fear didn't save lives. He stepped forward anyway. And in that moment, before names, before truths, before bloodlines and sins, the Alpha's gaze locked onto the Omega who didn't flinch. Something ancient stirred. Something neither of them was ready for. Eli had seen death before. It clung to hospital walls the way humidity clung to skin, unseen, unavoidable, always waiting. Night shifts made it worse. That was when the city's secrets bled through the doors. Overdoses, stabbings, quiet suicides, loud ones too. But this was different. This man didn't look like someone who lost fights. He looked like someone who ended them. Gunshot wound, left abdomen, one of the paramedics barked. BP dropping. Lost a lot of blood. Eli's hands moved on instinct, gloves on, voice steady, eyes scanning. He avoided the man's face at first. That was rule number 1 when treating gang-related cases. Focus on the wound, not the legend. Except the legend was impossible to ignore. The air felt thick, heavy, charged. Eli's suppressants should have muted everything. His Omega senses, his reactions, the weakness the world loved to punish. He'd taken them religiously for years. Double doses during exams. Triple on night shifts. Yet his pulse stuttered. A warmth curled low in his stomach, unfamiliar and frightening. No, not now. Prep or two, Eli said, sharper than he intended. We're losing him. As they wheeled the gurney forward, the man's eyes flickered open. Dark, focused, unafraid. They landed on Eli, and stayed there. Not glazed, not panicked, intent. Eli felt it like a hand closing around his wrist. For a split second, the world narrowed to that stare. The beeping monitors faded. The shouting dissolved. There was only the Alpha on the brink of death and the Omega standing far too close. Then the man exhaled. Slow. Controlled. As if he were the one observing Eli. Doctor, the Alpha rasped, voice rough with pain and something colder beneath it. Eli swallowed. Yes. A faint smirk ghosted the man's lips before his eyes slid shut. Don't let me die. It wasn't a plea. It was a command. Eli would later wonder why that sentence haunted him more than the blood. He'd tell himself it was professional pride. That doctors hated losing patients. That adrenaline did strange things to memory. He would lie. Because the truth was this. The moment he cut into Dante Russo's abdomen, Eli felt something crack open inside him. Something he'd buried so deep he'd forgotten it existed. Not fear. Recognition. Nighttime listeners, these are the earbuds I use to enjoy stories without distractions. I put the link below if you're curious. Back to the story. Chapter 1. The city never slept. It only learned how to bleed quietly. Eli Park had discovered that during his first year of medical school, when he started volunteering for night rotations at St. Gabriel's, a public hospital wedged between abandoned factories and low-rent apartment blocks. By now, in his final year, he could read the rhythm of darkness like a pulse monitor. 2 a.m. brought overdoses. 3 a.m. brought fights. 4 a.m. brought regret. Tonight felt wrong from the start. The air was too heavy. The fluorescent lights hummed louder than usual. Eli had just finished suturing a kitchen knife wound when the ER doors slammed open hard enough to rattle the glass. Everyone froze. Not out of shock. Out of instinct. 4 men rushed in first, dressed in black, eyes scanning corners, hands hovering too close to concealed weapons. A stretcher followed behind them, pushed fast by paramedics whose voices shook despite their training. Gunshot wound, left abdomen. Entry only. BP unstable. Blood soaked through the sheets. Not splattered. Not messy. Controlled. Like even the bleeding obeyed him. Eli felt it before he saw the man. Alpha pheromones flooded the room, sharp and dominant, carrying the unmistakable weight of authority. Beta stepped back without realizing it. A young Omega nurse faltered, clutching the wall as her scent glands flared in panic. Eli's fingers tightened around his tablet. Suppressants. He'd taken them before his shift. He always did. Yet something warm stirred low in his body, unfamiliar and unwelcome. Oh. He shoved the sensation down and moved forward. Room 2, Eli said calmly. Now. One of the armed men opened his mouth, clearly unused to being ordered. Eli didn't slow. Doctors outranked violence inside hospital walls. Everyone knew that. Reluctantly they complied. The stretcher rolled past him, and for the first time Eli saw the patient's face. Sharp jaw. Dark lashes. A thin cut splitting one eyebrow. His suit was expensive, custom-tailored, and ruined by blood. His hands were steady despite the injury, fingers curled loosely at his sides like he was merely inconvenienced. Not dying. Watching. His eyes opened as they passed through the doors. They locked onto Eli. The connection hit like static through bone. Not attraction. Recognition. Eli's breath caught. The Alpha's gaze wasn't wild or desperate. It was alert. Measuring. As if cataloging Eli with the same precision Eli used to assess vitals. Something ancient shifted in Eli's chest. He forced himself to look away. Let's move, he snapped, breaking the moment. Inside or two, everything became controlled chaos. Vitals were called out. 4 lines were placed. Scissors sliced through expensive fabric. Eli scrubbed in while the trauma surgeon took point, but his attention kept drifting back to the man on the table. He should have been unconscious. He wasn't. Hold still, Eli murmured as he positioned an oxygen mask. The Alpha's lips twitched. You're shaking, the man rasped. Eli stiffened. I'm fine. You lie badly. Eli ignored him and focused on the wound. Single entry. Clean trajectory. No exit. Bullet still inside, Eli said. Prep for extraction. The Alpha exhaled slowly. Not a groan. Not a curse. Controlled breathing. Psychopath, Eli thought distantly. Or military trained. Or both. As anesthesia finally pulled the Alpha under, Eli felt the room release a collective breath. Only then did he realize his heart was racing. He forced himself to slow it. He had work to do. The surgery lasted nearly 2 hours. The bullet had narrowly missed major organs. Whoever shot him either had terrible aim, or extraordinary restraint. Eli assisted quietly, hands steady, mind sharp. He didn't think about the way the Alpha's scent lingered even through masks and sterilization. He didn't think about the way his own Omega instincts were stirring like something waking from a long sleep. He definitely didn't think about destiny. Doctors didn't believe in fate. They believed in anatomy. By the time they wheeled the Alpha into recovery, Eli was exhausted. He stripped off his gloves, washed his hands until the skin felt tight, and leaned against the counter for a moment longer than necessary. That was when he felt it. The pull. Not physical. Energetic. Like gravity. He turned. The Alpha was awake. Not fully. His eyes were half-lidded, unfocused with anesthesia, but they found Eli anyway. Always Eli. You, the Alpha murmured. Eli stepped closer despite himself. Yes. Dark lashes fluttered. What's your name? He hesitated. Hospital policy discouraged personal connections with trauma patients, especially ones escorted by armed guards. Especially ones who radiated danger like heat off asphalt. Eli. The Alpha nodded faintly as if committing it to memory. I'm Dante. The name settled in Eli's chest like a weight. Before Eli could respond, Dante drifted back into unconsciousness. Eli stood there far longer than he should have. He tried to shake it off. Patients came and went. Charts piled up. Dawn crept toward the windows. But Dante Russo didn't leave his thoughts. The guards never left the hallway outside his room. The nurses whispered. And Eli's suppressants stopped working. By morning, his Omega senses were fully awake for the first time in years. He locked himself in a bathroom stall and pressed his forehead against the cool tile. Get it together. This was chemical. Stress-induced. Temporary. Except deep down Eli knew better. Whatever had passed between him and that Alpha in the ER hadn't been random. It had been recognition. And recognition was dangerous. When Eli finally returned to the ward, one of Dante's men intercepted him. Our boss wants to see you. Eli's stomach dropped. He's not cleared for visitors. He asked for his doctor. Eli swallowed. Against his better judgment he followed. Dante lay propped up in bed, for lines snaking into his arm, color returning slowly to his face. His eyes opened when Eli entered. Sure. Present. Tracking. The room felt smaller. You saved my life, Dante said quietly. Eli nodded. It's my job. Dante studied him for a long moment. No, he said. It's more than that. Eli didn't respond. Dante's gaze softened just barely. Stay close, the Alpha murmured. This city isn't kind to unclaimed Omegas. Eli froze. His scent blockers hadn't failed. No one had ever known. Except Dante. I don't know what you think you sensed. Dante lifted a hand. I don't think, he said. I know. Silence stretched between them. Outside, sirens wailed. Inside, something irreversible began to unfold. Chapter 2. Eli didn't sleep after that. He finished his shift on autopilot, signed charts without remembering writing his name, and walked out of St. Gabriel's just as the sun began bleeding pale gold into the skyline. Normally, dawn brought relief. Today it brought dread. Dante Russo knew. Not guessed. Knew. Eli replayed the Alpha's words over and over in his head as he rode the subway home. This city isn't kind to unclaimed Omegas. He hadn't told anyone. Not classmates. Not supervisors. Not even his closest friend from med school. He'd masked his scent since he was 16, learned how to walk smaller, speak quieter, exist in ways that didn't invite attention. And Dante Russo had seen straight through him in under 12 hours. That alone should have terrified him. Instead, what scared Eli more was how calm Dante had been about it. No hunger. No possessiveness. Just certainty. Eli showered twice when he got home. Hot water scalded his skin as he scrubbed away phantom traces of alpha pheromones that weren't actually there. He swallowed another suppressant pill even though he knew stacking doses could mess with his hormones. He needed control. He curled into bed afterward, exhaustion finally dragging him under. Sleep came in fragments. Dark eyes. A deep voice saying his name. Strong hands steadying him as he leaned over an operating table. He woke with his heart pounding. By noon his phone was vibrating. Unknown number. He ignored it. It rang again. Then again. Finally a text came through. Mr. Russo is being discharged. He requested you. Eli stared at the screen. Oh. He typed back. I'm off shift. He can see the attending physician. 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then reappeared. He said you're the only doctor he trusts. Eli closed his eyes. Of course he did. 2 hours later, Eli stood in front of a private medical transport van parked outside his apartment building. He hated himself for coming. But guilt was a powerful leash and doctors were trained to respond to it. One of Dante's men opened the door. Doctor. I'm not his personal physician, Eli said tightly. The man nodded. He disagrees. Inside, Dante lay reclined against leather seats, dressed in fresh black clothes for removed, posture relaxed but alert. His injury was hidden beneath a compression wrap and tailored jacket. He looked less like a patient now. More like a king in exile. His gaze lifted when Eli stepped in. There you are. Eli didn't return the smile. You shouldn't have left the hospital. Dante shrugged. Hospitals make me vulnerable. You're still vulnerable. Dante studied him. Not with you here. Eli hated the way that sentence landed. He moved closer anyway. Professional habit. He checked Dante's vitals, examined the wound, and carefully, asked about pain levels. Dante answered every question honestly, watching Eli the entire time. You didn't have to come, Dante said quietly. Yes, I did. No, Dante corrected. You chose to. Eli stiffened. Dante wasn't wrong. The drive to Dante's residence took 40 minutes. No sirens. No lights. Just smooth city streets and heavily tinted windows. Eli sat rigid in the passenger seat while Dante watched the world pass by. You're afraid? Dante said. Eli didn't look at him. You abducted me. Dante exhaled. If I wanted to abduct you, you'd be blindfolded and restrained right now. That didn't help. I brought you because someone already tried to access your hospital records this morning. Eli turned sharply. What? Dante's jaw tightened. Rival syndicate. They know an Omega treated me. They're trying to identify you. Cold spread through Eli's chest. I didn't authorize. They hacked, Dante interrupted. Your firewalls are mediocre. Eli swallowed. He'd spent years avoiding attention. And now, you're safer with me, Dante said. That's debatable. Dante's gaze hardened. People who touch what's mine don't survive. Eli's stomach dropped. I'm not yours. Dante didn't argue. He just said quietly, not yet. The estate was massive. High walls. Armed guards. Surveillance cameras nested in ivy-covered stone. Eli felt like he'd stepped into another world. Inside, the space was minimalist and immaculate. Dark wood, steel accents, wide windows overlooking the city. Dante led him to a private medical suite. "I had this installed last year," Dante said. "Didn't expect to need it so soon." Eli worked in silence, redressing the wound, checking for infection. Dante didn't flinch when Eli's fingers brushed his skin. Instead, he closed his eyes. Eli noticed the scars then. Old ones. Knife wounds. Burn marks. A surgical line near his ribs. "You've almost died before," Eli said softly. Dante opened one eye. "More times than I can count." Eli's throat tightened. People didn't come out of that unchanged. Later, Dante insisted Eli eat. They sat across from each other at a long dining table. The silence wasn't awkward. It was charged. "You hide," Dante observed. Eli paused mid-bite. "Excuse me?" "You're set. Your posture. The way you make yourself small." Eli set down his fork. "I do what I have to." Dante nodded slowly. "This city punishes softness." "So you became cruel?" Dante didn't flinch. "I became necessary." Eli held his gaze. There was blood on Dante's hands. But there was also restraint. That scared Eli more. That night, Dante insisted Eli stay. Guest room. Locked doors. Guards outside. "Just until the threat passes," Dante said. Eli wanted to refuse. Instead he nodded. From his bed, Eli stared at the ceiling, heart heavy. He could feel Dante's presence through the walls like a distant pulse. Not predatory. Protective. And that was the most dangerous part. Because Eli was starting to realize something terrible. He felt safer here. Chapter 3. Eli woke to warmth. Not the gentle kind that came with sunlight through curtains or blankets tucked around shoulders. This was different. It was inside him. Low in his abdomen, spreading slowly outward like something stretching after a long sleep. He lay still for several seconds, staring at the ceiling of the guest room, hoping it would fade. It didn't. His breath shortened. His skin felt too sensitive beneath the sheets. His suppressants were failing. No, they couldn't. He'd taken them religiously. Never missed a dose. Even doubled up when stress spiked. But his omega glands were buzzing beneath his jaw, tender and awake, sending quiet distress signals his body hadn't broadcast in years. Eli rolled onto his side and pressed his thighs together. Too early. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Heat cycles came with warning signs. Days of buildup, emotional instability sent changes. He'd memorized the symptoms. Planned his life around them. This felt triggered. External. Alpha-induced. His chest tightened. Dante. He showered cold. It barely helped. He dressed slowly, hands trembling, every movement feeling exaggerated. His heart beat too loud in his ears. By the time he stepped into the hallway, he was already sweating lightly. 2 guards stood outside his door. "Doctor," one said respectfully. Eli nodded and headed toward the kitchen. He needed water. Maybe food. Maybe distance. Dante was already awake. He stood near the floor-to-ceiling windows, phone pressed to his ear, voice low and lethal. "I don't care how you do it," Dante said. "Find out who touched his records." He paused. "Yes. Kill them." Eli stopped walking. Dante ended the call and turned. Their eyes met. The air shifted. Eli felt it instantly, his omega instincts rising like a tide meeting shore. Dante inhaled sharply. His pupils darkened. "Eli," Dante said slowly. Eli swallowed. "Morning." Dante crossed the room in 3 strides. Not aggressive. Purposeful. He stopped a careful distance away, fists clenched at his sides. "You're heating." Eli's jaw tightened. "I'm managing." "You're shaking." Eli looked down. His hands were trembling. He forced them still. "It's fine. I just need space." Dante didn't move. His nostrils flared as he breathed in Eli's scent. Raw concern flickered across his face. Not hunger. Not dominance. Fear. "This is my fault," Dante said quietly. Eli blinked. "What?" "I triggered it. My pheromones broke through your suppressants." Eli hugged himself instinctively. "That's not how it works." Dante stepped back half a pace, giving Eli room. "That's exactly how it works when a bonded alpha meets an unclaimed omega." Eli froze. "We're not bonded." Dante's voice dropped. "Not yet." Eli retreated to the medical suite. He locked the door behind him and leaned against it, breathing hard. His body was betraying him. Every nerve felt exposed. His thoughts kept circling Dante, His voice, his presence, the way he'd said his fault instead of your problem. He injected emergency stabilizers from his travel kit, hands steady only through years of clinical training. The relief was partial. His heat dulled but didn't disappear. This wasn't a standard cycle. It was a response. A calling. He slid down the wall until he was sitting on the floor. He hated this. Hated how weak it made him feel. Hated that part of him wanted Dante close. Dante felt it too. He paced his office like a caged animal. His alpha instincts were screaming. Protect. Claim. Shelter. He hadn't felt this kind of pull since he was 17, and that had ended in betrayal and bloodshed. He'd sworn never again. He'd chemically suppressed his alpha side for years, built walls inside himself that no Omega had ever crossed. Until Eli Park. Eli didn't smell like submission. He smelled like defiance wrapped in gentleness. Like stubborn hope. Like home. Dante slammed a fist against his desk. Control. He ordered every guard off Eli's hallway except one. He instructed staff to prepare a heat-safe room. He personally vetted every security camera feed. He did not go to Eli. Not yet. He knew what proximity would do. Eli finally emerged late afternoon. His cheeks were flushed. His eyes glassy with exhaustion. Dante felt it like a physical ache. They sat on opposite ends of the couch. A wide, deliberate distance between them. You should leave, Eli said quietly. Dante shook his head. I won't. You don't understand. I understand perfectly, Dante interrupted. If you leave this property right now, they'll find you within hours. Eli closed his eyes. Tears threatened. He hated how trapped he felt. Dante softened his tone. You don't owe me anything. I won't touch you. I won't claim you. I won't even come near unless you ask. Eli looked at him. You promise? Dante placed a hand over his heart. On my life. Something in Dante's voice made Eli believe him. That night Eli's heat surged again. He curled in bed, sweat dampening the sheets, body aching in places that had no logical explanation. He didn't cry out. He bit down on the pillow instead. Minutes later, a soft knock came at the door. Eli, Dante's voice murmured through the wood. I'm here. Eli stared at the door. His instincts screamed for Dante. His mind screamed for distance. I'm not coming in, Dante continued. Just tell me what you need. Eli swallowed hard. Just stay. Dante slid down to sit outside the door. They remained like that for hours. Separated by a thin barrier. Connected by something far stronger. Chapter 4. The attack came just after midnight. It started with silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the kind that happens right before something breaks. Dante noticed it first. The security monitors glitched for half a second. That was all it took. He was already moving when the alarm screamed. Locked down the east wing, Dante barked into his comm now. Guards scattered. Lights snapped on. Outside Eli's door, the lone sentry stiffened. And dropped. A suppressed shot. Cling. Professional. Dante's blood went cold. Eli, he growled, already sprinting. Eli heard the gunshot before he heard Dante. His heat had left him weak, muscles trembling, senses dulled by exhaustion. He was halfway out of bed when the door exploded inward. Two masked men rushed in. Omega. Rare. Unclaimed. That was all they saw. Eli barely had time to scream before one of them clamped a hand over his mouth. Quiet, the man hissed. We don't want to hurt you. They lied. A sedative needle pierced Eli's neck. His vision blurred instantly. As they dragged him toward the hallway, Eli caught one last glimpse of Dante rounding the corner. Eyes blazing. Face empty of mercy. Then everything went dark. Dante lost something inside himself when Eli disappeared. Not patience. Not restraint. Something older. Something primal. He didn't shout orders. Didn't wait for confirmation. He moved. The first intruder died with Dante's fingers crushing his windpipe. The second tried to raise a weapon. Dante disarmed him and broke his neck with a twist. He followed the trail of Eli's scent through shattered glass and fallen guards, his alpha instincts burning hot beneath his skin. Suppressants meant nothing now. His body rejected them violently. He tore through men like they were obstacles, not humans. Blood slicked the marble floors. Walls echoed with screams. By the time Dante reached the garage, 6 attackers were already dead. 2 more were loading Eli into a black van. Dante roared. The sound wasn't human. It was alpha. The men turned. Too late. Dante slammed into the driver's side door, ripping it open and hauling the man out by his hair. The other reached for Eli. Dante shot him in the face. He caught Eli as his body slumped. Eli was limp in his arms, skin flushed, breathing shallow. The sedative was already wearing off. Omega biology was stubborn that way. Dante cradled him against his chest. Eli, Dante whispered. I've got you. Eli stirred weakly. Dante. That was all it took. The mate bond snapped into place. Not formal. Not ceremonial. Instinctual. Violent. Irrevocable. Dante felt it surge through him like lightning. What? Back inside the estate, Dante carried Eli straight to the medical suite. No one spoke. No one interfered. They could feel the alpha shift. Eli woke fully during treatment, confusion clouding his gaze. His body trembled as reality returned. They took me, Eli whispered. Dante cupped his face gently, thumbs brushing Eli's flushed cheeks. They won't touch you again. Eli's eyes filled. I was scared. Dante leaned his forehead against Eli's. I know. Something cracked in Eli then. He reached for Dante without thinking. Wrapped trembling fingers into the fabric of Dante's shirt. Dante froze. He waited. Eli didn't pull away. So Dante wrapped his arms around him. Careful. Controlled. Protective. Eli broke quietly against his chest. Not sobbing. Just breathing him in like oxygen. Dante held him until the shaking stopped. Later, Dante sat beside Eli's bed while doctors confirmed he was physically unharmed. The rival syndicate had been neutralized. Permanently. Dante didn't care. All that mattered was the Omega sleeping inches from his hand. When Eli woke again, he looked at Dante with raw honesty. You killed them. Yes. You did it for me. Yes. Eli swallowed. I don't know how to feel about that. Dante didn't lie. I would do worse. Silence stretched. Eli studied him. You promised you wouldn't claim me. Dante nodded. I won't. But we're bonded. Dante hesitated. Emotionally, he admitted. Instinctually. Eli exhaled slowly. Then stay. Dante blinked. Stay, Eli repeated. Just, don't cage me. Dante reached for Eli's hand. I don't cage what I love. The word slipped out before he could stop it. Well, Eli didn't recoil. He squeezed Dante's fingers instead. Outside the room, the city continued breathing. Inside, two broken souls began something neither of them could walk away from. Chapter 5. Eli found the file by accident. That was the cruelest part. He wasn't snooping. He wasn't suspicious. He was simply restless, unable to sleep while guards patrolled hallways and Dante's presence lingered just beyond the guest room door like a steady heartbeat. So he wandered. The estate was quiet at night, too quiet. A place built to hold secrets in its walls. Eli drifted into the private study, drawn by the soft glow of a tablet left active on the desk. He should have turned away. Instead, his eyes caught a familiar name. Park. His breath caught. Hands shaking, Eli stepped closer. Medical charity ledgers. Territorial maps. Incident reports stretching back years. Then he saw it. Collateral damage, warehouse district incident 14 years ago, 2 deceased civilians. Crossfire. Unavoidable. Eli's parents' names stared back at him in cold text. The room tilted. No, Eli whispered. He read it again. And again. Different words. Same meaning. They hadn't been targeted. They'd just been in the wrong place, standing between rival gunmen, between Dante Russo's syndicate and another that no longer existed. Eli's knees buckled. He sank to the floor, chest heaving, vision blurring as memories flooded back. Sirens, smoke, the way his mother's hand had gone limp in his. His entire life had been shaped by that night. And the man he was starting to love had been at the center of it. Dante knew something was wrong the moment Eli didn't come back to bed. The bond, unspoken, unnamed, pulled tight in his chest like a wire under strain. He found Eli in the study. On the floor. Broken. Dante crossed the room instantly. Eli. Don't, Eli said hoarsely. Dante froze. Eli stood slowly, tablet clutched in his hands like a weapon. You said you became necessary, Eli whispered. You said this city punishes softness. Dante's gaze dropped to the screen. Understanding hit him like a gunshot. I didn't know, Dante said immediately. I swear to you, I didn't know it was them. Eli laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. Does it matter? Dante stepped closer. It does to me. My parents are dead, Eli snapped. They died terrified, bleeding on concrete because men like you couldn't keep their wars contained. Dante didn't defend himself. Didn't justify. He knelt instead. I can't undo it, he said quietly. If I could trade my life for theirs, I would. Eli's eyes burned. I don't want your death. Then what do you want? Eli's voice broke. I wanted you to not be part of this. Silence swallowed the room. The bond between them strained, aching, fraying but not breaking. Eli shook his head. I can't stay, he whispered. Every time I look at you, I'll see blood on the floor. I'll hear sirens. I'll remember that my parents never got a choice. Dante stood slowly. I'll dismantle everything, he said. The syndicate. The routes. The violence. I've already started. Eli looked at him. Too late. Dante swallowed hard. Then let me make it right anyway. Eli turned away. I don't know if love is enough, he said softly. Dante's voice cracked for the first time. It's all I have left. Eli left before dawn. No guard stopped him. Dante ordered them not to. He watched from the balcony as Eli walked out the gates with nothing but a backpack and shaking resolve. The bond screamed. Dante let it. Some things couldn't be forced. Days passed. Then weeks. Dante kept his word. He burned his empire down piece by piece. Illegal routes shut. Weapons seized. Leaders arrested or eliminated. Money funneled into hospitals, scholarships, trauma centers. Including St. Gabriel's. Eli heard about it from a distance. He tried to forget Dante. Tried to bury the pull in work and sleepless nights. But some bonds didn't fade. They waited. And somewhere deep in the city, a rival who had survived began making plans. Because Eli Park was still unclaimed. And Dante Russo was no longer pretending to be a monster. Chapter 6. Eli tried to build a life without Dante Russo. He threw himself into rotations at St. Gabriel's, volunteered for extra trauma shifts, and slept in empty on-call rooms more often than his own apartment. He pretended the ache in his chest was exhaustion. It wasn't. The bond never faded. It pulsed quietly beneath his skin, a reminder that somewhere in the city, an alpha who refused to cage him was still breathing. Eli told himself that didn't matter. He focused on patience. On sutures and scans. On keeping his hands steady when ambulances brought in victims of gang violence. Every time he saw blood on pavement, his stomach twisted. Every time he smelled alpha pheromones, his omega instincts stirred. And every night, when he closed his eyes, he saw Dante standing on that balcony, letting him walk away. The call came during a double shift. Dr. Park, a nurse said urgently. We have a multiple casualty intake. Warehouse District. Eli's heart stuttered. Warehouse District. He didn't have time to think. He pulled on gloves and ran. The first patient was unconscious. The second was critical. The third made Eli's blood turn to ice. Dante Russo lay on the gurney, pale beneath harsh air lights, blood soaking through a compression bandage at his side. Eli didn't hesitate. He took control. Prep or two. Now. The room moved around him. Muscle memory kicked in. He cut fabric, assessed wounds, called vitals, and ignored the way his omega instincts screamed at the sight of Dante bleeding. Dante's eyes fluttered open as they wheeled him past the doors. He found Eli instantly. Always Eli. His lips moved. Eli leaned closer. I told you, Dante rasped faintly, I'd find my way back to you. Eli's throat closed. Save your strength. Dante tried to smile. You're still my doctor. Eli swallowed hard. And you're still my patient. The surgery was brutal. Shrapnel damage. Internal bleeding. Dante had intercepted a hit meant for a community clinic funded by his new foundations. He'd stepped into the line of fire without hesitation. Eli worked like his soul depended on it. Maybe it did. When Dante finally stabilized, Eli had to step away before his knees gave out. He locked himself in a supply room and pressed trembling hands to his face. He had walked away once. He wasn't doing it again. Dante woke up hours later. This time Eli was sitting beside his bed. Not standing. Not distant. There was no dramatic reunion. Just quiet breathing and the steady beep of monitors. Dante's gaze softened. You came back. Eli nodded. You got shot saving a hospital. Dante huffed weakly. Bad habit. Eli leaned forward. You dismantled your empire. Yes. You turned your money into trauma centers. Yes. You took a bullet for strangers. Dante's eyes never left Eli's. I did it because this is who I want to be. Not because I expect forgiveness. Eli's voice trembled. My parents are still dead. I know. And loving you doesn't erase that. Dante reached slowly for Eli's hand. Then don't erase it. Carry it. With me. Eli let their fingers intertwine. Tears slipped down his cheeks. I don't want a monster, Eli whispered. Dante brushed his thumb over Eli's knuckles. Neither do I. The bond surged. Not violently. Gently. Like something finally allowed to breathe. They took it slow after that. No claiming bite. No public declarations. Just dinners that turned into conversations. Just Dante sitting quietly while Eli studied. Just Eli cleaning Dante's scars with careful hands. The city noticed the change. Violence dropped. Clinics expanded. Scholarships appeared in neighborhoods no one used to care about. People started calling Dante a philanthropist. Dante didn't correct them. 6 months later, Eli graduated. Dante stood in the back row, dressed simply, clapping softly while Eli crossed the stage. Their eyes met. Nothing dramatic. Just certainty. They moved to a coastal city soon after. Quiet streets. Ocean air. Dante still carried a gun. Eli still carried a stethoscope. They protected each other now. Some nights, Eli traced Dante's scars and whispered about patients he couldn't save. Some mornings, Dante made coffee and watched sunlight touch Eli's face like something sacred. They never pretended their world was perfect. They chose each other anyway. Eli once asked late one night, "Do you regret the life you lived before me?" Dante kissed his forehead. "No. Because it led me to you." Eli rested his head against Dante's chest. "Then let's make the rest of it worth surviving." Dante wrapped his arms around him. Always. Eli saved lives. Dante ended wars. And together they learned that love wasn't about erasing the past. It was about choosing the future.